excoriating column you wrote about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, in which you suggested a number of questions that Oprah Winfrey may want to present to this couple for their big bombshell interview.
By the way.
Yeah, I mean, what is your view? The debate, it seems to me, has come down to this. The Queen has taken a clear decision now that you cannot be half in and half out of the royal family. You're either in and you do all the dreary duty that goes with that, and in return you get the trappings of palaces and servants and so on, or you're out. And the Sussexes have decided to decamp to California. They're making gazillions off their royal titles, and the question remains this: should they be able to continue trading as celebrities off being the Duke and Duchess of Sussex? Titles gifted to them on their marriage by the Queen. She could take them away, but she may feel that's too churlish. They could, of course, really show how intent they are on freedom from the shackles of the royal family by giving up the titles. What's your view?
Well, you know what my view is, honestly, is let them do what the hell they like and let us take no notice of them, unless they do something noteworthy. Preaching at us isn't good enough. Anybody can preach, and some that's garbage that they've been spouting. I mean, really, heavens. But why do we have to take...
John Humphreys, when you call it garbage, what is it that you take issue with?
Oh, it's the sanctimonious nature of it. Be like us, and the world will be a better place because we are good people. The whole tenor of it is... It's
well, at least it's positive. I mean, so...
Because it's normally laced with utter hypocrisy. For example...
we're all hypocrites in our own way.
For example, saying, I want you all to look after every carbon footprint that you tread, says Prince Harry. And literally days later, he's using Elton John's private jet like a taxi service.
Exactly. And that is simply unconscionable. But I mean, they couldn't do it. They couldn't do all of this stuff if we said, yeah, all right, get on with it. We wish you a very happy rest of your lives and have lots of lovely children, all that. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But do you mind if we just look the other way?
Yeah, but John and Kevin and Andrew, the fact of the matter is the media is obsessed with Harry and Meghan, and it doesn't matter, in my view, whether they're the Duke and Duchess or not, whether they renounce their titles or not. Newspapers, television programmes will continue covering their every move.
Hang on. Look at that picture we're showing as you say that.
Yeah.
This is a couple who've just fought a privacy battle in court against the Mail on
exactly.
Sunday. They have billed themselves as the great prince and princess of privacy, and yet when it came to revealing a private moment like a pregnancy, they don't have to tell us they're pregnant. They don't have to. Right? But they decided not only to do that, but to hire some fancy Vogue photographer to take this picture, which is a scene out of some Hugh Grant movie, and then release it. Interestingly, release it to all the media, knowing that they would then obviously lap it up because the media does like covering them, obviously. But including the media that, if you may remember, 10 months ago, they listed a number of newspapers they were banning from their lives. But all those papers were allowed... Hang on.
OK,
hang on,
you'll carry on talking forever.
All those papers that they banned, conveniently, were suddenly allowed to use a picture which promotes their brand.
Do you not understand the difference between them wanting some control over what is released
it's called hypocrisy.
to the public? No, it's
You're
not.
talking
It's
to a
called
bunch...
boundaries.
You're talking to four journalists who don't agree with you. You're supposed to be a journalist. How can you think that?
Because I'm not someone who just thinks what everybody else in the room thinks.
How can any journalist think that people in public life should have the right to control their media?
Well, I'll
That's
tell
not
you
how it
why.
works.
Because someone in public life, like me, who's on television, doesn't necessarily want every single aspect of their life to be broadcast or reported
But if you're
on.
making $100 million from Netflix, right, who, by the way...
Doesn't mean you've opened the gate and they can report on everything.
Who, by the way, have just invaded your own family's life, in Harry's case, more than anyone in history with the Crown, right? And you take $100 million from the company that's just trashed your own family.
And then you want every aspect of your life.
And then you claim to be the Prince of Privacy. Do me a favour. John Humphreys.
Yeah, but no, I'm with you. And that picture you showed, yeah, all right, fine. Celebrate the birth of your baby, by all means. What I found particularly objectionable, another picture that you may or might not have in your library at the moment, but it was the one in the Garden of Remembrance on Remembrance Day. Yeah. And they were paying tribute to the fallen. Absolutely fine. But shouldn't they have done that? Shouldn't Harry, in particular, have done that in private?
Yeah. And to have a photographer following them.
OK, but
To have a
if they'd done
photographer
it in
following them
private,
around the cemetery, I
if
thought
they'd
was
done that
stomach
in
churning.
private, then he wouldn't have been able to say that he'd done it. I honestly think you're all so critical of them. I don't think there's any problem in having boundaries and saying there are certain things
their boundary is
certain things we do want to share and certain things we don't.
OK, well, let's talk about boundaries. Let's talk about what Prince Harry's done in the last week. Prince Harry has... When his grandmother, the Queen, issued a statement about the settlement of the titles that they've been bestowed upon them, he responded in a statement, snapping back at the Queen about what service means. I mean, the gall of it. But also, and I think even more offensively, frankly, on Tuesday we learned Oprah Winfrey flew into their Californian home in Santa Barbara for 2 days of gut spilling about the royals with Meghan and Harry. We knew on Tuesday that Prince Philip, his grandfather, had been taken to hospital. And the idea that Prince Harry's reaction would be to then sit down with the biggest talk show star in the world with his wife and spew, presumably, I think it's going to include some critical stuff about they were treated by the royals. As Prince Philip is lying in hospital, I'm sorry, but we are allowed to say, given they are still the Duke and Duchess of Sussex and making bazillions out of their royal titles, we're entitled to go, sorry, this is not on.
I think that timing was insensitive. Definitely.
You do?
Yes.
Right, so you don't
that.
support them. Andrew Pearce, I mean...
No,
I just
think I'm allowed to criticise some of what they do.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean I'm going to entirely criticise them all the time. Andrew.
Can I just say as well, that, and she flew in, didn't she, Oprah Winfrey, on her private jet. She left on her private jet. I thought Meghan and Harry deprecated people on private jets, even though they use them all the time themselves. I think they should have cancelled or delayed that interview until the health issues for Prince Philip are resolved.
Kevin, I know that
you're close to his grandfather.
You're a Republican, but do you agree with me? Am I literally one in a room of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
You're the only journalist who thinks they should be able to control their media coverage,
No, Susanna's right about boundaries, and there'll be an ongoing discussion on where those boundaries are. I think they cross them sometimes. But, yeah, look, I'm loving it as a Republican. Regimes destroy themselves from within. This is like watching a very posh version of Shameless with servants. As they all just go around doing themselves in. That's what they're doing. I mean,
your newspaper will continue to put them on the front page.
You know why? You know why?
The Duke and Duchess or not.
They could have maintained their ban on the Daily Mail and the Daily Mirror. They could have maintained the ban and said, no British tabloids can have the pregnancy picture. But they didn't. They deliberately wanted to have those pictures on the front pages because they knew it puts them in a good light.